Inside Marshall Basketball with Thundering Herd head coach Rick Huckabay. Today's program is brought to you in part by Ashland Oil. Ashland's America, where quality education is an investment we've got to make. Huntington Trust, we want to be your financial center. Right in downtown Huntington, the Huntington Mall and Charleston Town Center. Your locally owned Amco independent dealers in Huntington, St. Albans, and Ashland. Now your host, Channel 13 Sports Director Terry Bumgarner.
Hi everybody, and welcome to our debut edition of Inside Marshall Basketball with Rick Huckabay. I'm Terry Bumgarner, and the coach and I will be with you all season long. We're going to kind of take this informally and just show people what Marshall basketball is all about. And the season's just about ready to start. You got to be pretty excited.
Oh, we are. I'm glad to have that game behind us. I got my pregame jitters out of the way. I was asking the players, don't be nervous, fellas. Just play like you're supposed to and let me be nervous, and I was. But this is exciting, Terry. I like the idea of our show and our people, and hopefully we can show them all something about more than just basketball at Marshall.
We're going to try and take them behind the scenes a little bit. We'll introduce them to your wife today and to Don Turney, and we'll show them a few extra special things now and again. But let's go back and talk a little bit about the preseason. This is our first time really to talk like this. About the preseason, about the kind of intensive practices you guys went through. You practiced them 2 a day throughout most of the preseason, didn't you?
We worked very hard to prepare. I think a lot of it is our newness with our staff, our enthusiasm. We thought, well, let's just work harder than anybody else, and we've got them convinced, I think, that we spend more hours and more time than most people, so we deserve to have good things happen to us. But we've played really hard, and I think you're supposed to. I didn't pat them on the back so much for their efforts because I think you're supposed to play hard. I did pat them on the back for their skills, their abilities, and most of all, their unselfishness. They're a bunch of nice guys, and they want to be successful in a certain way, and they don't care who gets the glory as long as we win.
The 2-a-day practices and that sort of thing, how much of that was just to instill discipline and to get them together as a team, and how much of it was because you really needed the time to teach basketball?
It was both, Terry. I just didn't think I was a good enough coach to teach all that I wanted to teach in one segment of the day. So we went 2-a-days. We may go back to it if we have to add some things. We'll give them some time off maybe for the holidays, and we'll come back and we'll go 2-a-days again. It's just to repetitious over and over and over again. It's plus to get everything in technique-wise and teaching-wise that I want to teach.
Well, you're right on the verge now. Tuesday night is the first game of the season, Eastern Michigan. You got WVU coming up in a week, or just short of a week next Saturday. How do you feel sitting right here on the edge of your first season at Marshall?
Well, you know, that game is one behind us. It doesn't really count with the Yugoslavs. It did count in my mind. The Eastern Michigan game is very, very important to us. It's on the road. It's going to be very difficult to win our first one on the road. The game does count on our record, if that means anything. But I'm a little apprehensive about it. It's a must situation. Of course, I put every game that we play as a must situation. I want to win every one we play. Every time we take the court, I expect to win. I don't try to play to keep from losing. And if with that attitude, I think we'll be pretty efficient. The players are not looking ahead to the WVU game. They're thinking about it. They're sharp enough to realize that that's important too. But right now it's Eastern Michigan. We'll practice as often as we can to get ready for them, and then we'll think about WVU.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the Yugoslavia game, come back and take a look at the highlights. First, we'll take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Last Tuesday night, Marshall got its first game experience. It didn't count, but it was an exhibition game against a team from Yugoslavia. Now, before we get into the game highlights and talk about the game, you had a special guest, Tom Heinsohn, former coach, player with the Celtics. What did he say about the team? He watched the whole game, and he had some nice things to say, didn't he?
He really did. He came to practice the day before, and I was overwhelmed by having him there. I'm just like a kid when it comes to that. There's a great Tom Heinsohn. And then I spent some time with him off the court, but he came into the dressing room, and he coined a phrase that I really, really like, and I'm going to steal from him. He said, "You took away their will to win with your defense." And he said, anytime you can do that, you're going to be a great basketball team. And he said, you remind me of the Boston Celtics in their heyday with their efforts and taking away people's will to win the game.
It's pretty heady stuff.
Oh, it was great. And I said, golly, if these guys can just hear what the man is saying, we're so close to being where we want to be if they'll just remember that.
Let's take a look at the highlights. We'll show people what happened in that ball game. First time your team's come out on the court, Coach, against Yugoslavia. You've got the music going. I guess you guys are pretty fired up there.
Yeah, it was a great feeling. I told them that we had 20 minutes to play and then 40 minutes to play and the rest of our lives to think about it. And I really meant that. And we were excited. I don't know if I looked too excited or not, but I was inside. I was scared to death, and I was telling them not to be.
Is it difficult to get excited for not a Yugoslavia, an exhibition game, or are they so ready to play it doesn't matter who's out there?
Well, I think you're right, Terry. In this case, we just wanted to play somebody. It didn't even matter who. If they hadn't showed up, we'd have played skins and shirts. You know, we just wanted to play, and we did get them up for it. It's an important game. I tried to stress to them that you're representing not just Marshall, but the United States of America.
121-81. It was a slaughter, and I thought defense was really the key to it, and the full court press. You see how it led to the break right there?
Yeah, it was, and all fast break. Everybody loves to run with the ball. You can't do it unless you get the ball defensively or rebounding. The game got a little sloppy at times. The team that we played was very tired, and you have a tendency to play the way your opponents play. But defensively was the key to this whole ball game. The fact that our effort was going to be there, unselfishness, give up the ball and let somebody else score is going to be our attitude.
And you saw a great example of it there. Sam Henry tipped the ball. About 4 guys touched it before the bucket finally happened. Same thing right there. David Wade gets it on the break.
Well, I think the kids, the players, need to see some success at what we've been talking about. Automatically, basketball players love to fast break. That's no problem there. But getting them to find the open man and do the little things, block out, rebound, be unselfish, that's a hard part.
And here's Sam Irvin. First time the fans around here have gotten to see what he can do, and he seemed to have a pretty good time. Look at the score at halftime, 59-34. What do you do in the second half? They know they've got it won.
Well, we told them, Terry, we said, we're not playing to win now. We're playing for effort. We're playing to show people what we can do. Let's hold our opponents under a certain number. We like to shoot for the 70s if we can hold our opponents under a score. They scored 81. When they got to 79, we said, don't let them score again. We really put some effort on. They took a half-court shot and made it, but we were still trying to accomplish some things other than just win the game.
And everybody got some playing time. Everybody got a fairly equal amount of playing time, and everybody played pretty well, didn't they?
They did. They all got, I told them they'd play. They did. There was some that played a little bit more than others, but the maximum was 21 minutes by Laverne Evans. And so I think that's the way it's going to be all the time. Everybody's going to play as much as we can when we need them to.
You know, this game wasn't all that fun for the fans because of all the fouls and all of that kind of thing. But as a coach, were you overall happy with everything that happened?
Well, I got good vibrations from the game, but after talking with a Yugoslavian coach, he said, Coach, out of all the teams that we played, your team played the best defense. And we played a lot of schools. They didn't win a lot of games, but he said your team was the best defensively. So I thought about that when he told me after the game, and I went in and relayed that message to the players in the dressing room. That was very important to me, that someone else thought we did well, because I'm always critical. I always go back and find things that we didn't do well, hoping that they'll become perfectionists and try to play better. So overall, Terry, I liked what we did, but we got a long ways to go to improve on the things that I think we need.
You know, we talked about it a moment ago as we were watching the highlights. I get the idea defense is the big thing in your mind.
It is, and all the teams that I've had in high school and even some of my baseball teams that won national championships, we were a good defensive team, had good pitching in baseball. But I think any ingredient that you need to be a champion, a true champion, it stems from how hard you play defense. And then the other thing is just free gratis. If something good comes out, it's because you work so hard to get there. So I hope you see a lot of that, and I hope the fans see a lot of defense. In turn means that we might win some championships with that.
You're going to open in a couple of nights, Tuesday night, Eastern Michigan. You have to open on the road. Does that concern you?
It does, because the sign of a true champion is someone that can win on the road. It's a little easier to win at home. You got your faithfuls right there hollering for you. It makes it a little easier. You feel good. You eat the right food. You sleep in the right beds. Now on the road, you change your routine, and it's a little different. The weather's a factor. Mentality of the game, who they're playing. They analyze their opponents too much sometimes. Biorhythms, everything comes up into on the road. But if we can become a good road team, And if we can do well against Eastern Michigan for the first time right out of the box, then I think we'll be a good road team down the road on the rest of the games.
Okay. Well, to be a good road team or a good team at home, you have to have good players. Every week throughout the season on this show, we're going to try and introduce you to one of the Marshall players, make him more than just a guy in a uniform, get to know the folks. When we come back, you'll meet Don Turney, who should play a much bigger role this year than he did last year. Stick around. As we said going into the break, we're going to try and introduce you to each of the players each week as we go on through the season here on Inside Marshall Basketball. For our debut edition, we thought we'd go with a guy who, you saw him play some last year, but he didn't get much playing time. He should play a much bigger part of in the team this year. I'm talking about Don Turney. Dave Metzel went out and talked to Don earlier this week.
A new coach and a new season have created a new outlook for junior postman Don Turney. At the end of last season, Turney wasn't sure if he wanted to play ball for Marshall anymore, but the arrival of Rick Huckabay and his assistants provided a new spark of inspiration for Turney, which he carried with him throughout the summer.
They gave me some things to work on, shooting around the top of the circle was my thing, getting that shot down so that, I'd hit it every time, and rebounding and all that kind of stuff. And I took it all to camp with me. I was a counselor at 5-Star Camp in Pittsburgh, and I took it there with me and played against some good competition. So, some of the counselors came from Boston College, Boston University, all over the nation. I took it there and tried to do what they told me to do, and I think I did it halfway decent. It helped me a lot to play against that kind of competition and come back here, and it built up my confidence a lot more.
It was at camp where Turney shed 25 excess pounds and implemented a lot of Huckabay's suggestions. The result was a better basketball player.
People have told me already that I look like a changed person than last year, that in everything that I do, that the way we're doing things now, it's just affected me all around.
Turney attributes much of the credit for his change to the disciplinary tactics of Huckabay. Turney says it's a drastic change from the way Coach Zuffalato used to run things, but for Turney, it's a change for the better.
I think that I have to be yelled at, sometimes to get me going. Other people have different ways to get going. I think I have to be yelled at to, if I'm in a down mood or something, and I come out and don't play very well, it's happened already. They've yelled at me and all that kind of stuff, and then I start going. That's what I need. I never got it with Coach Z. He'd never yell at you like they would, but. That's what I personally need, and they've done it. It's happened.
Now to put it all together, Turney wants nothing more than to crack that starting lineup, but no matter how much he has improved, he still must battle at least 4 other guys who want to do the same thing.
Everybody's thinking about starting a job. I'd love to start. I mean, it'd be great. I think about it all the time, and it really gets hard because if you're working against somebody, and they have a great day, and you're trying to stop them, and all this kind of stuff, and it just gets you down. Well, I got to come out and have a better day tomorrow. So that's the point I've taken is, if you don't have a very good practice today, you just got to come out and bust tomorrow.
Coach, Don is one of a number of guys on the team, and he referred to this that last year he knew he wasn't going to get in the game very often, and I think maybe it helped him and a lot of the guys to know that they started off on even footing this year. Everybody was equal because everybody was new as far as you were concerned.
That's true. I think the one thing that I tried to change, and I didn't want to change a whole lot, was the fact that they could all contribute, but they had to have a little more confidence in themselves. All Don Turney needed was confidence that he was going to get a chance to play, and then number 2, confidence in his ability. I think Don Turney can be a good player here at Marshall, and he showed some in our last game, and I think he's really got a great future ahead of him as soon as he gets a little bit more aggressive and understands what we're doing. Jeff Battle, Jeff Richardson, they started, and they haven't started ever, or maybe Jeff did a few times, and I thought that they deserved a chance. They've done in practice what we've asked them to do. They've exemplified the efforts that we've asked them to show, and I thought that in the ball game they did well. And this is going to be a great indication for the other players that if you just listen and do what you ask, you're going to get a chance.
Is the lineup going to stay set once you get going in the season, or is there the chance that you'll change from week to week depending on who's playing when?
It could change. It really could. Now, naturally, you'd like to have a set group that you know you're going to go with consistently, but I think when the young men learn their roles and their expectations, then there's not going to be any hard feelings who starts, who doesn't start, because I'm constantly stressing, Terry, it's not who starts the ball game, but who's in there when the game's over. And you look at the 5 that walk off the court after a ball game, and that's the 5 that are the most important at that time, and they've probably been the ones to win or lose the game. So I don't put a lot of stock into who starts.
And the exhibition game you played, everybody played pretty equally. Right. I realize that was an exhibition, but are there going to be a lot of guys playing a lot of the time?
It depends. I hope I'm not beating around the bush on your question, but
it's hard to say.
It is. No, I'm going to. The saying is the cream always comes to the top, and I think there'll be 8 or 9 guys that you can always count on to play the most. But the other 4 or 5 are still going to get their chance. They're not going to just sit there and just wander their minds and that type of thing. They're going to contribute because they're going to have jobs on the bench. They have to watch certain aspects of the game. They have to stand up when a player comes out. They have to encourage it. There's going to be a lot of good things, but you're right. We're going to try to find the 8 or 9 or 10 guys that we can really count on in pressure situations, and they'll do the playing with the other 5 having a role.
Do you think this all has helped them come together as a team, to feel everybody feels like he's part of the team?
It really has. I really love these guys. People use that word very loosely. I've never been taught to say it unless it's very meaningful. They really care for each other on the court and off the court, and I think that's important. I think that's an intangible thing that's going to make Marshall basketball a winner to the point that they hadn't won before, because they all care and they're all trying to please and be successful, and I really like that attitude.
Well, nobody does it alone. The team doesn't do it alone. The coach doesn't do it alone. He's got to have somebody supporting him, too. You're going to meet somebody very important to him when we come back after this. If we are, in fact, going to take you inside Marshall basketball, then we have to let you meet some of the people behind the scenes. Now, the first words out of Rick Huckabay's mouth when he was first introduced to the media were, "I want you to meet my wife." If she's that important to him, then she might be that important to you, too. We thought you'd like to meet her. When she's fixing lunch for her son Andy, Kay Huckabay looks like a fairly typical wife and mother, but she really isn't. The wife of a college basketball coach can't be typical. Her husband will be gone all the time, road trips, recruiting, speaking engagements. He'll constantly be worried about his team. He'll get calls at all hours. But Rick was already a coach when he and Kay met, so she knew what she was getting into.
Before we got married, I knew very much what Rick Huckabay was about and what was important to him. And naturally, he made sure that I would know what was ahead of me. He did. I can say honestly that he really tried to prepare me for what was going to be ahead. He is gone all the time, but he doesn't like for me to say that I take care of everything because, he feels that he does take care of a few things, but very few. But it's just because he's not here. It's not that he hesitates to, discipline the children or help me with things around here. And the boys, they have a lot of respect for him and what he's about, and I think I'm proud of that because that's my doing. I feel that's a little part of something I've contributed to our family because he is gone a lot, and rather than taking the attitude, well, if your dad was here type thing, we in turn just say, now dad is out, coaching his team, and how proud we are of his team and everything, and it's hard on them sometimes to understand that at their ages, but now it's paid off because they're really proud of him also.
Basketball is what brought the Huckabays to Huntington, and it's as big a part of Kay's life as it is Rick's. She's a former high school player, and this winter, she'll coach her son Ricky's buddy basketball team at the Y. In the meantime, Ricky's daddy has his own team to worry about, and Kay is looking forward to his season.
I get really involved. Now, hopefully I don't go, absolutely berserk and crazy. I get very tense inwardly. I don't show it outwardly, but I am very much involved with the game. And I have a tendency to watch Rick more than I should. Every emotion that he makes, I don't really particularly like to see that because I like to watch the game. Well, naturally, if you love someone and feel for them like you do your husband or your children, you feel everything, disappointment, you feel the happiness, and I try to remove myself just a little bit because I'm already feeling it, just a little bit, because I get more caught up than that than the game, and I like to try to enjoy the game as well.
And how will someone who's so involved in the game handle losing when it happens?
I may go sit in the big green room.
Of course, Rick Huckabay's teams haven't lost very often. And Kay doesn't take credit for any of Rick's success on the court. She says he hasn't needed any help there. But she does know the role that she's played.
I don't think Rick would be as happy a person and self-fulfilled as he is without me and the boys. And I feel good about that.
That was certainly not one of my more difficult assignments. She's a nice lady.
She's a good lady. I'm very proud that she decided to marry me 11 years, 12 years ago, whatever it is. And I'm really proud of her. She's about the best friend I have in this world, and she's a true fan. She's with me win or lose. And those little old boys of mine, you couldn't ask for any nicer young guys, and I'm just proud to have them as part of my family.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the season. We're about to start. We've been talking about it for the whole half hour here. But you've got Eastern Michigan, and I know you're not going to jump ahead past Eastern Michigan, but let's face it, the fans are going to want to jump ahead to WVU. Now, you're just coming into this state. You don't have the background. You don't have a reason to consider them as big a rival maybe as the fans do. How do you look at that game? Well,
you try not to become a part of the rivalry. I mean, I've got a job to do. I can't worry about who the coach is or who hates who or who loves who. But I love Marshall, and I'm sure I will get caught up in the rivalry. There's just no doubt about it. If the media people will let Coach Catlett and I be friends, I'd like that. If they won't, well, I'll have to live with that too, because what we do seems to be is more important to me than what they do anyway. But it'll be a great game. There'll be a packed house, and we're looking forward to it. Don't get me wrong. I think about it now. I'm up at night trying to think, what can we do here and what can we do there? I'm possessed by this game of basketball, and we're just going to continue to try to improve. Eastern Michigan first and WVU second.
No, speaking of WVU, we had a little war of the boots last week. Talk about those special boots you had made. How'd that come up?
Well, they talk about boots are made for walking, and I own some boots, and I thought, well, maybe I could do something special for Marshall. Maybe I can get somebody to make a special boot. And a man did, Don Bryan at LaGrange Leather, and he made these boots up for WVU and for Marshall. So we went out there the other day and got them.
I see you're gonna kick WVU over.
Yeah, well, that's what we're just kicking. I don't know whether I've called them a lot of things, some sort of kickers when you wear cowboy boots, but we'll call them whatever you want to call them.
Okay, well, we're going to come back next week. We'll show you what happened to that ball game. We'll talk about the Eastern Michigan game. Plus, again, more features, more highlights. Inside Marshall Basketball. That's what it's called. We'll see you next week.
Today's program has been brought to you in part by your locally owned and operated Tradewell stores, your local Sony dealer, and Superior Cadillac and Oldsmobile. Downtown Huntington, you deserve the best.